Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden, Will Southard, and Tommy Yu.
Welcome, everybody, to the PPP presented by Draftkings. My name is Brian. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening or watching this, hopefully live, if we actually got it working again. And you know what? Tell a friend, because that's how we grow this Pigskin Party. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Will Southard and Tommy Yu. So we switched things up, guys. We actually already recorded the flavor of the week. So now we're recording the main episode backwards, but this will be released Wednesday morning, flavor of the week Thursday morning. And Will, you had your little Superman curl going flavor of the week, and now you fixed it again? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Believe it or not, when you're talking about random updates and you want to know how my week is going, I bought a drone, and I'm in a course to become a commercial drone pilot. It's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a course for that? What is a commercial drone pilot? Can't you just stick your remote control and just...
Well, you're a real estate agent, right? Or
manager,
kind of.
But yes.
Sure, whatever. You work there for some reason. They pay you.
They pay me a lot, yeah.
The guys who take drone videos for agents, like how to, on housing and stuff, and apartments and all that, you need a license to be able to fly in like a residential area or some area where like you could, I don't know, hurt somebody or hit a plane or something. You can just go fly yourself in a field or something like that. But if you want to fly anywhere where stuff is cool, you just have to pass a test. So it's not like a super big deal.
And what are your personal intentions? Like, what do you hope to get out of getting a commercial license to fly a drone? Like, what are the uses here? I mean,
how could you not? My uncle, first of all, my uncle's a real estate agent, so I'm gonna hook him up with the drone videos. But second, yeah, I mean, imagine like going into a bar and being like, "Yo, what up, ladies? I'm a drone pilot, and I got license to prove it."
I don't think that's gonna hit. First of all, you're married. Second of all, I don't think that's gonna hit.
Yeah, but you can still holler.
You think it is. In your head, I really think that hits bigger with women than it actually does. Tommy, what are your thoughts on this? If you were a woman, would you be impressed by Will's commercial drone pilot license?
Honestly, my panties would probably instantly drop. I feel like you whisper that into my ears and kablam! I'm like, how did this happen?
Do you know, Tommy, that Brian is like, he's carried this torch every week, and we just kind of ignore it.
So catchy.
Like you hated it, and he just kept doing it, and now you just don't even care.
I'm actually surprised that there's no drop. Like at least just that part of the song. Like I feel like that should definitely be a drop.
That's actually a fantastic idea, Anthony. Homework for next week: find the "you" drop from that song so that we can. Good, there you go.
That's not the drop, by the way.
No, of course that's not the drop. We just want to. Also, can you give us another dent if we manage to go live? Are you actually tracking us on YouTube?
Nice.
Awesome. Hey, we actually know how to do this thing. So, hey, I'll take the loss. Apparently, I was wrong. This whole commercial drone pilot thing is something to behold. I guess let us know how long does that take? Is that like a intense course, or is it like 1 hour online for free?
No, it's like I think the class. It's like 15 hours of instruction. And then you just go take the class and basically
What kind of instruction? Like up goes up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B.
How hard is it to do real estate?
Into...
You're just like, just go convince the guy to buy the house.
Kind of is like exactly like that. But we don't talk of our day jobs on this. Our job for this particular podcast
mediocre NFL analysis.
Amateur NFL analysis with a little bit of flair. So let's go ahead and do that. As I mentioned, we switched it up. We already recorded the flavor of the week. So here's a teaser because you're listening to this. We have PFF's Ari Mayrov coming on the show for the flavor of the week, which we already recorded, but it'll be dropping. Whoa, it will be a fun episode. I wonder how it will go. I'm sure Will say nothing inappropriate at all. Quick reminder, we are proud to be a member of the Pigskin Podcast Network. So check out all the other great NFL podcasts on there at pigskinpodcastnetwork.com, as well as our sponsors over at Draftkings. So what we're going to be doing in our new format, which we've done a couple weeks now, is we're just going to recap the week 9 games. We already recorded the flavor of the week where we previewed the week 10 games. We will do our normal fantasy talk, Will and I doing our Hires and Flyers. Will, I don't even know if you prepped. I just realized we didn't give you the normal time to prep, so you might just be pulling up Draftkings in the middle of the show, which would be in brand for you. I can't argue with that. And then, as always, make sure to stay tuned separately for Tommy's Fantasy Island. So let's go ahead and jump into the Week 9 games. Starting with Thursday, Indianapolis Colts trouncing the New York Jets 45-30. This is another one of those games where the score was, actually, let's backtrack. Because we recorded an episode that's going to air after this, but we already recorded it, we mentioned a little bit about the craziness. But before we get into these games, let's take a second to acknowledge that this is the most crazy NFL week in recent memory, right? I mean, I felt like black was white, up was down, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Great opportunity for a show like ours to recover. Do you guys have any thoughts about what we witnessed before we actually go game by game here?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it. You like it to be nice and packaged and just perfectly predictable, right?
I mean, from a fantasy perspective, it was a horrible week, right? Like just things that should have happened didn't happen, right? In a very boring, low-scoring main slate on Sunday, right? Just not a lot of like firepower outside of the Minnesota Ravens game, which was exciting. But
which also started off on its head when the Vikings had such a big lead in Baltimore.
Yeah, just a weird week, dude. Just a bad week.
Yeah, I
Tommy,
completely agree. I feel like just across the board, fantasy scoring was so low this week, and it wasn't like there was just one game or two games that didn't meet expectations. I feel like almost every game kind of went a different way. I'm like, are we in like an alternate timeline? Like, are we the parallel universe that other people talk about? Like, what's going on right now? But kind of like what Will said, it's like I'm throwing this week out already, and I'm just gonna try to look forward to the next one because I don't know, it's so bizarre, and I feel like it will definitely not be the norm.
So let's go back into the games now. It started fairly straightforward, as I mentioned. The Indianapolis Colts absolutely trouncing the Jets. Mike White came in, threw a touchdown on his first drive. Looked like he was gonna pick up right where he left off from the week before, where he was able to come back, throw for over 400 yards and beat the Bengals, but he hurt that numbed a couple of his fingers. He was not able to grip or therefore throw the football. Instead, we got Josh Johnson, who came in and he did okay, passed for over 300 yards, but this was a game that controlled by Indianapolis. Jonathan Taylor, you're talking about Derrick Henry. Jonathan Taylor might be the next guy to kind of jump into that tier of absolute dominance at the running back position. Indianapolis just had in control from start to finish. Before we move on from Thursday night.
I feel like you nailed everything, really. And I think one of the big questions that a lot of people had in mind, a lot of people thought that because the Colts have so much skin in the game with Carson Wentz, if they weren't in a winning position, are they going to bench him so they can retain their, not give the Eagles a first round pick, blah, 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 blah. But it's, to me, obviously cheering them on. So obviously hoping that Carson Wentz starts the whole year, but also kind of wanting them to fail because then we would get their first round pick. So I'm kind of in this delicate dance, but for the most part, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like we were robbed. I mean, Josh Johnson played fine, but I really want to see Mike White play, especially after that drive. But I guess we're going to have to wait for another week.
Pittman's a lot better without T.Y. Hilton in the lineup for sure.
Yeah, when he can be the number one dominant receiver, that's another guy who's coming up. They're going to have some fun weapons between him and Taylor going forward. If Wentz can keep that ship steered in the right direction, the Colts could be a frisky team for the second half of the 2021 season. So let's talk about that Cincinnati team we referenced briefly. The Cleveland Browns, my preseason Super Bowl pick, 41, Cincinnati 16. This was in Cincinnati. The whole Odell Beckham leaves the team, and all of a sudden Baker turns into a fantastic number one overall quarterback again. That narrative seemed to actually be backed up here. Very much a run-first game. Nick Chubb finished with 137 yards, had a great long touchdown run to kind of... It was very much the kind of game that the Browns want to play under Stefanski. Run first, great play action. Baker was very accurate. The defense played really well. They had 2 or 3 interceptions again for a pick 6. They definitely got a lot of pressure on him. This was just a dominant performance top to bottom.
I think it was a freak game for the Cardinals, or the
it
Bengals.
would be a freak game for the Cardinals because they didn't play in this game.
Bengals, right? Like a lot of the interceptions were weird, like tip and pick deals. Chubb had that long Chubb run that Chubb does, chubbing it up.
You're just trying to see Chubb as many times as you can. Yeah.
DPJ had that like ridiculous, catch and run touchdown. So if you
DPJ,
take away,
is that what we're calling him now?
yeah, DPJ.
That's when you know you've made it. When we can shorten
Donovan PP Jones, Peoples Jones. But anyway, what I'm saying is that it wasn't the normal Bengals, right? And they had a lot of things that went the Browns' way, a lot of things that didn't go the Bengals' way. Play that game again, I'm not sure it plays out like that. So, I mean, just was one of those games, right? Like the Bengals just laid an egg.
I completely agree with you. Well, I feel like this is a game that I'm going to throw out because even though Burrow admittedly didn't look as sharp, I mean, if we get to throw away some games with Josh Allen from Josh. Actually, maybe that should be his nickname.
He did. Because he cloned himself. He was on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on now. Maybe we'll lean into this mistake. Now we have a special nickname for him. But if we're allowed to throw away some of his games saying, oh, yeah, it was just a weird game, that doesn't count. I feel like we should definitely be able to do this with Cincinnati. But I feel like it's really cool to kind of see the Browns kind of gather together with all this news and just play absolutely lights out. So I feel like I know that is a team that you picked for the Super Bowl, Brian. But I'm interested to see kind of how they play out. My expectations aren't that high. But, I mean, they definitely have some good momentum.
Fun fact on the Bengals, 2 weeks ago, really until about 7 minutes left of that game against the Jets, the Bengals were the number 1 team in the AFC. They are now last place in the AFC North just 2 weeks later. Yes, it does. This week is full of surprises. The reason why we're saying this week was so crazy. Cleveland pounding Cincinnati was a little bit of surprise, but within the normal realm of possibility. But the Denver Broncos winning 30-16, and that 16 was very much scored in garbage time. They were winning 30-0, I believe, at the start of the late into the third. Teddy Bridgewater looking very efficient. This Broncos defense looked great, even without Von Miller. Patrick had a great game, long touchdown, 82 gloves. This was just domination, start to finish. I'm going to go to you as the NFC East expert here, who hates the Cowboys, but grudgingly respects them. What happened here in Dallas?
Wow, kind of like what you said. They essentially got shut out this game. I know at the end of the day, this box score is going to say they scored 16, but they essentially got shut out this game, and it was unbelievable to see. Of course, I feel like the big storyline everyone's talking about is when Von Miller, with that trade, everyone's saying, oh, well, goodbye, Fangio. This is your last year. You guys are tanking. It's over now. But then they completely trounced what a lot of people said. It may not even be the best team in the NFC, but maybe the best team in the NFL. And to see what they did to them and absolutely embarrass them, I mean, it brought a tear to my eye. I was super excited. I mean, Dak was making mistakes that you don't see him do. He even missed a bunch of passes. It was bizarre. But I feel like that's kind of the theme of this week. I'm also throwing this out for Dallas. It's just so weird to me on what's going on because as I have been outspoken, I'm not a big Denver fan. So this game completely took me by surprise, but it's one of the games where I'm just throwing out. How do you guys feel?
Well, yeah, I completely agree. It's just, it wasn't any, there was not anything that was supposed to happen, right? That whole offense just looked completely out of sync. There were a lot of just missed third down conversions that should have happened that got
and
Dallas
fourth down conversions
that got
early.
Dallas off the field. So I'm not taking that as a data point. I'm just throwing it out and moving on.
I'm with both of you guys. I think that's our best approach here. And for some of the other games that we'll mention later, it's more just like there's not any huge takeaways. It was just sometimes any given Sunday you just get thumped, and guess what? The Cowboys got thumped. Kudos to Denver for rallying on that. Miami Dolphins 17, Houston Texans 9. I'm fine if we don't spend a lot of time on this, even though the Dolphins won. This was one of the most boring games of the week on paper, and it was one of the most boring games to actually watch. Main surprise was a late add. Tua was a late scratch. That was kind of took everybody off guard. But game, Myles Gaskin with 34 yards. Jalen Waddle, 83 receiving yards. Number of turnovers for both teams. It was just sloppy. I'm fine with moving on. Do you guys have anything to add, or shall we go to the next game? I'm not going to let you answer that. Let's just move it on. Okay. Atlanta Falcons. Here's another one of these surprise games. 27 Saints 25. The Falcons were up 27 to, I believe, 6 or 24 to 6 in the fourth quarter. And actually the Saints scored 3 touchdowns to actually take the lead. And then Matt Ryan drove down the field and Younghoe Koo, Tommy's boy, kicking the game-winning field goal. So a game that Atlanta dominated. The Saints came back under Trevor Siemian, but then the Falcons still ended up winning. Matt Ryan, 343 yards passing, has looked very, very sharp and efficient recently, which is interesting considering Julio is gone, Calvin Ridley taking a leave of absence. Our boy Corduroy with over 120 receiving yards wasn't as involved as a rusher, but it doesn't matter. Like wherever they can get him on the field, to see our boy Corduroy succeeding is fantastic. Falcons are now officially, at this moment, a playoff team.
Corduroy kind of steals the show. Every time he touches the ball, you always have to wonder, how did other teams not just give him the ball more? You could even make the argument that he still isn't touching the ball as much as he should in Atlanta's offense, even though they had so many key players either go down or not producing. So I had to play against Corduroy in fantasy. I actually played against you, Brian, in that one PDL league that I mentioned from time to time. And I kept saying, no, there's no way he could do it again. But he does it every single time. So I keep disrespecting him when I think he won't. But that was kind of the biggest takeaway for me in this game. It was definitely a surprise to see Atlanta win because they've been on fire as of late. But it's honestly Corduroy that's carrying this team.
I mean, just a cool story, right? Like a gadget player who never really found his way. And now he's just kind of on fire, and the whole NFL is sort of taking notice, and like he's got to, right? Because I mean, what else is there? Russell Gage, and then you got Olamide Zacchaeus catching 2 touchdowns. Teams are doubling Kyle Pitts, so he's gonna have to do that. Mike Davis is not good at football, so I mean, it's pretty crazy, considering what they're doing with so few weapons.
I think eventually defenses are going to have to pay a little bit more attention to him, which should open things up for Kyle Pitts, because right now that's where all the focus and attention is going, understandably. But that's leaving really, really advantageous matchups. The final drive where the Falcons got into field goal range for that Younghoe Koo game-winning kick was Cordero Patterson one-on-one with I believe it was a rookie defensive back. Matt Ryan saw it, threw the ball down the field, made the play, got them in field goal range to win the game. He's a weapon, and it's nice to see him finally being utilized, and I'm very glad he's on multiple fantasy teams of mine. Chalk it up to another surprise. New York Giants 23, Las Vegas Raiders 16. They have survived the John Gruden dismissal and, in fact, went on a 2-game winning streak. But it looked like the Henry Ruggs news came out, and they might have just been kind of emotional overload. They did not look like they were ready to play this game. Derek Carr, I would say, with his worst game of the season. Not that the Giants played great on offense. I think Danny Dudd had less than 200 yards passing, but it didn't matter. They had a pick 6. The defense looked strong, and the Raiders really looked sloppy in this one.
Yeah, to me, this is just another one of those kind of boring games that I feel like doesn't need a lot of talk for. But my only takeaway was,
a lot of those this
Darren
week.
Waller. Yeah, I know, right? Darren Waller's back. He had like 92 yards receiving. And Devontae Booker actually looks pretty solid in kind of the role that he's been playing. But other than that, that's pretty much my only takeaway from this game.
Tony kind of disappointed, right? I mean, who knows how he's feeling. I mean, Hunter Renfrow looked good in a game where, obviously projected to look good given his new role in the offense, now that they got the rug split out from underneath them. I'm going to use that twice.
We should also mention
that
signed or is expected to sign with the Raiders. Yeah, so that'll be kind of that deep threat this offense when Carr, who has been a lot more aggressive these past 2 seasons, ball down the field, has a deep threat. Of course, we all know D-Jax will get injured at some point because it's just inevitable, but
why would you
at least
put
in the
that on
meantime,
that, man?
I don't put it on him. It just happens. I don't have to put it on him. Tommy knows. Tommy's very familiar with D-Jax from his time in Philly.
I hope Kadarius Toney continues to be a thing in the NFL because he's very good. So hopefully he's just, I don't know, had a funk game and they're not using him. But
So if we're looking for an anchor in this week of games. One game where it went exactly as we would have predicted. This next game was it. Bill Belichick, 24, Sam Darnold, 6. So there's at least some semblance of normalcy in week 9. This was it. Everything else was not exactly as we portrayed it. But still, so the Patriots 24, Panthers 6. Darnold just looked atrocious. They have McCaffrey back, so you can't even say that, oh, CMC's he's been out. That's why Darnold's been playing so bad. No, didn't matter. CMC's back. Actually, came in receiving with 54 yards. But, yeah, Jason, certified stud, I think, at this point, at defensive back. He had a pick six, number of pick sixes this week. So, any insight here? I mean, this game, at least, this is our comfort food. Like, okay, at least Bill Belichick still dominates Sam Darnold. I believe in his career, Darnold was 0-4 as a starter against the Patriots. He has 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions against Bill Belichick.
I mean,
if anyone knows Sam Darnold, it's Bill Belichick, right? Because he got to play him like 2 times a year, and he was on the Jets. And dude, Bill Belichick has like a hate boner for the Jets. So like, I feel bad for Sam Darnold because I feel like Bill Belichick psychologically can destroy him. But yeah, this game kind of went exactly as we thought. It was nice to see Christian McCaffrey back, but Bill Belichick is still that defensive mastermind that we all know.
I mean, kind of a little bit of a dirty situation with Mac Jones on the injury, right? With the weird ankle twisty thing that he did.
That was messed up.
That was kind of weird. Looked
you
a
want to
little weird.
describe, Will? What?
I didn't see it live. I didn't watch it, but I mean, from the replay, basically looked like the play was mostly over, and Mac Jones just kind of twisted Burns' ankle to throw him on the ground or do whatever. He wasn't stepping on him.
He had like a leg lock. It wasn't just like a quick twist. Like he was gripped on there and then was noticeably trying to twist the ankle out from under Brian Burns.
Yeah, so not a great look. But yeah, Patriots are doing great this year. They finally settle on their committee. I mean, Brandon Bolden still gets sprinkled in, but I mean, it's largely the 1-2 punch with Harris and Ramondre.
Stevenson.
So, yeah. I mean,
so while
incredible.
This game might have been the comfort food and the game that we can all rely on and in a world that makes sense, the next one is the complete opposite and completely tore all of that to pieces. Jacksonville Jaguars 9, Buffalo Bills 6. This was essentially, many would agree, the best team in the NFL versus the worst team in the NFL, and 9-6 is the final score. I think the biggest story here, any given Sunday, but man, this is the epitome of that saying. Josh Allen had a great game. I'm not talking about Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. We're talking about Josh Allen, edge rusher, linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who sacked Josh Allen, the quarterback, intercepted Josh Allen, the quarterback, and had a fumble recovery. So there was a Josh Allen who had an absolute... Do you think this was the game of Josh Allen on Jacksonville just saying, I want to take my name back?
I think it was... I mean, what actually happened was probably that, there were a lot of, I think, 3 starters on the Bills O-line that were out. Even that in and of itself shouldn't mean anything, but the popular Josh Allen just looked bad. Like, it all just looked bad, right? Just a funky day, dude. Just take this game, throw it out like the Week 1 Packers game that they got obliterated, and just go on with your life. The Bills are a good team. As you go into this weekend, we start to look at our hires and flyers. Like, I think people are going to be scared of Josh Allen against the Jets, which is ridiculous, right? Like, ridiculous. Like, that should be a lock. And I got burned hard. Like, when I went into this weekend, in all of my fantasy lineups, the first name that I clicked on was Josh Allen in cash against the Jaguars. And I just got smoked. I was so angry just staring at that name the whole time. Like, Hunter Renfrow got me more points than Josh Allen.
What a week. Tom, are we in agreement here that this is just one of those absolutely throw this result out, don't try to glean anything from it?
Yeah, I would. But I think one of my only concerns I do want to bring up, we don't have to spend too much time on it, is I actually have some concerns. Of course, I'm coming at it at a fantasy angle, but Stephon Diggs, he's good. He's been healthy. He's been running routes, but he has not really ever taken over a game the way that he typically does. Maybe that's because Josh Allen has been throwing it around and spreading it out a bit more. And the fact that their offense has been struggling a little bit, but it's a little surprising for me. He's been the model of consistency, but this year, once again, he's great. He's a great wide receiver, but he just, I guess, hasn't really had his games yet.
Baltimore Ravens 34, Minnesota Vikings 31 in overtime. This is a game that Minnesota was in control of for most of the game. They got out to an early lead. It looked like this was going to be yet another one of these games that just flips all the narratives on its head. But then Lamar's like, oh yeah, I'm Lamar Jackson, and ended up leading a great comeback. Vikings, I believe, had a chance late in the game. I think it was during regulation, and Kirk Cousins, they went 3 and out. So another opportunity of the Vikings losing a very close game. Lamar Jackson, leading passer with 266. Lamar Jackson, leading rusher with 120. And Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, over 100 yards receiving. Ravens defender here. Anything to take out of this game?
I feel like one thing I spent a little bit of time on, I feel like the Ravens offense is just so bizarre. I feel like they always try to implement some type of game plan going in. It just doesn't work. It's the most boring offense. And by halftime, they have just done nothing. And they're facing like a double-digit deficit that they have to overcome. And then they go into the second half, and they're kind of just like, all right, let's try to run the game plan one more time. Doesn't work. And then they're just like, all right, Lamar, go do your thing. Save the day. And then their offense immediately gets amazing. So I'm really hoping that they kind of learn like this far into this season of what they need to do to make this offense work with all the injuries that they have. But man, you can never count Lamar Jackson out anymore. I feel like the biggest knock on him was, oh, he can't come back from a lead because he's not a real quarterback. Well, it's looking pretty good in my eyes right now. What do you guys think?
That whole narrative of, all you got to do is get a lead against Lamar and then he's cooked, has clearly been proven wrong multiple times this year. He is showing that he is not just a guy who, once they get out to a lead and then they just pound the ball on the ground. No, he has been able to lead multiple comebacks this year. I've always been a Lamar fan, but I'm starting to become even more of a believer. Will, any adverse opinions?
No, I'm excited to see Bateman starting to come along in that offense, right? I mean, they've got weapons, and especially like let's not forget.
By the way, Le'Veon Bell scored another touchdown this week.
Yeah, he did. That guy's around. Who's the good guy? J.K. Dobbins. He's a thing, right? Like he's really good, and he's not even there. So imagine if they can get clicking.
Nor is Gus Edwards their number 2.
He is not very good. So there's
Gus Edwards great.
Edwards is solid.
No, I'm on the Lamar train. I'm not on the Gus Edwards train.
The Gus bus, thank you.
I'm not on the Gus wagon. Anyway, I don't know what I was talking about. Let's move on.
Will has confused himself.
I'm saying they got a lot of people. Like, amazing if that offense was fully healthy, right? Like, what they could actually do. And that what they could actually do would be losing to the Chiefs the game before the Super Bowl.
Although they beat the Chiefs this year. So this is the upside down. Los Angeles Chargers 27, Philadelphia Eagles 24. This was absolutely of two different offensive approaches. Honestly, both were working. On the episode that we already recorded, but which won't drop until Thursday, I mentioned that it was the Chargers absolutely trying to air the ball out. Very much a short. So I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe the Eagles have allowed 4 different passers to have an 80% completion rate or higher. They're very much playing a very vanilla 2-deep safety shell where they keep everything in front of them. They don't want to get beat deep. Herbert's Air Bear is like, okay, I'll take that. I believe he went 2 for 38 or something like that, 356 yards pass. But on the other side of it, the Eagles controlled the ball very well. They ran the ball over 30 times, just like they did the week before. I think this is a good approach for Sirianni and could yield some positive dividends. Tommy, your boy Devonta Smith, over 100 yards receiving. What did you see in this game other than your Eagles coming out on the losing end at the end?
This is exactly how I want pretty much every single Philadelphia game to go for the rest of the year. Like, kind of stick in it, show promises, and then lose. Like, that is optimal. Oh, unless it's against the Cowboys and absolutely dominate. all different phases of the game. But this is great because you kind of finally saw Jalen Hurts actually throw the ball with some touch on a couple of throws, which is something I haven't seen. Some timing routes, some out routes. He was really trying to throw balls and kind of show, hey, look, I can actually make throws, because the game beforehand was terrible. So Devonta Smith finally getting his due, because I feel like he is always open. So finally being able to see him put some stats up made me really, really happy. But yeah, I honestly felt like Philadelphia had no real reason to stick around as long as they have. So put a big smile on my face. So yeah, I feel like this is pretty cool to see.
I feel like we need to circle back to the beginning of the year when we were talking about like,
but yeah,
like is
Anthony,
Jalen
you're a bit
Hurts
light on the sound drops tonight. By the way, feel free to just throw some stuff
Anthony
in there.
is busy.
Yeah.
With his
Yeah, you have to mention it. There you go.
Jalen Hurts, like was he a thing at the beginning of the year? We were kind of like, maybe. We had a lot of belief. He's looked good. He's looked bad. Fantasy wise, he's been amazing, this year, considering what he's working with, right? We're what week is it? We're going into week 10.
Yep.
We just finished 9 going into 10. Yeah.
So we're
halfway
couple
season.
games more than right. That's
no.
my point.
We are exactly halfway. 18 weeks this year. You're out
Circling
there.
back.
Will here.
Well, it is very late.
It is late.
True.
How do you feel, Tommy? Are you feeling happy that Jalen Hurts is your quarterback? Do you wish it was somebody else? Like, what are we looking? Are we trending up? Are we trending even? Or are we trending down?
I want to give him the full season because I'm kind of old-fashioned in that way. So I'm kind of indifferent right now. I feel like we can't really, for those, like, if it's what people have been saying, like, oh, just put Gardner in, then yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled that Jalen Hurts is my quarterback, because we have in Gardner Minshew, which is a very serviceable, pretty decent, good quarterback. But I feel like Jalen Hurts is kind of the wild card. Sometimes he shouldn't even be starting for even a college team, let alone NFL team. In other games, I'm not saying he looks good, but there's promise. And so I want to ride it out with him because I feel like there's no real other option to give. Like, this is already a lost season for the Birds, so might as well ride it with Jalen Hurts the whole season to see if he will actually pan out. What I don't want to do is end up like the Broncos. We're like, what is Drew Lock? I mean, we have him start so many games, but we still don't know. Well, you have your answer there. If you still don't know after starting him for like a full year or two, then that means he's not your guy. And right now with Jalen Hurts, it's kind of that ambiguous state that I used to see Drew Lock in, being like, well, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Like, I don't get it. So I just say let him do the whole season, try to build his confidence, and if he just does not look good the whole way around, then that's where we move on. So that's kind of how I'm feeling, but I feel like it's a pretty fair outlook, right?
Have you seen, you mentioned Gardner Minshew. Did you see him cut his sleeves to basically give himself like bat wings in his jersey?
What?
You got to
No, but
send
that
me this
sounds
immediately.
Awesome.
You
You got to
haven't
send
seen
me
this?
this immediately.
So you know how in a football jersey you got your big pads and then you got your sleeve that just kind of hangs down, and it's a tight sleeve, right? That grabs around your whole like situation. Well, he just like in his armpit cut the sleeve of his jersey all the way to his armpit. So the thing just hangs like it like basically drapes over his shoulder pad, and it looks incredible. It looks like he has like bat wings. And he played like that. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I'll send it to you.
That was this year or just
Yeah, oh yeah.
when he was with Jacksonville? Okay.
You definitely just look up Gardner Minshew cut sleeves and you will just laugh your ass off at what he looks like. He looks ridiculous.
Will happily do that. Let's move on. Not that I want to don't like spending time talking about Gardner Minshew's sleeves, but you guys look like I'm losing on this weekend. So, Kansas City Chiefs 13, Green Bay Packers 7. Jordan Love with his first NFL start. Didn't look against a defense that has been, at least through the first 8 weeks, one of the worst in the NFL. They looked better here, but that could have been because they were playing Jordan Love. Love was certainly peppering Devontae Adams with targets, but didn't really look like they had any type of connection. But on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs' offense looked pretty bland, too. They did not turn the ball over, which was a welcome surprise for KC, but it's not like that fixed really anything. Touchdown drive, 2 field goals, which at least one of those were set up by turnovers. So my questions are, do we put any stock in this one game with Jordan Love? And at what point do we truly start panicking about this Kansas City offense? Tommy, we can start with you as our quasi-Chiefs resident here.
Yeah, I feel like absolutely. If I'm Kansas City, I am already hitting the panic button if it has not been hit before. We keep saying, well, no, they're going to bounce back. They are going to get better. This is not the Chiefs that's going to last as long. Well, like you mentioned beforehand, we're halfway through the season. It's not like we're like 4 games in and they kind of looked off and here and there. No, we're at 9 games in. We have had a good amount of the season passed, and we still see this, like, the Chiefs struggling. Like, I'm at a loss for words trying to describe the situation. And so I feel like for those reasons, it's not just a funk anymore. Maybe that's just what the team is. And I'm finally coming to that realization. And I keep saying, well, no, but it is just Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's going to bounce back. I mean, he had so much time to do it over and over and over again. So I'm just really interested to see how this is going to play out. But kind of like what you guys said, I am so surprised that Kansas City against an Aaron Rodgers-less Packers was only able to win by 6 points. That took me by huge surprise.
It's got to be mental at this point, right? It's not like he doesn't have the physical. There's something in his head that is just causing him not to play as well as he has in his previous few seasons of the NFL.
I mean, we were talking about the 3-man show for their offense, right? And what it could mean if it doesn't.
Kelsey at least got in the end zone, but he was their leading receiver with only 68 yards. Where's the big play threat? You know, that seems completely absent from this offense, and this offense thrives on the ability to, you never know when Tyreek's going to beat you deep, but that just teams seem to find out, like, don't blitz the Chiefs, just put at least 2 safeties back in coverage, keep everything in front of you, make Mahomes just run around, you know, like a chicken with his head cut off and either make a mistake or just keep it all dink and duck and keep it in front of you, and so far that's working. Yeah. It's a little disappointing. Arizona Cardinals 31, San Francisco 49ers 17. I was at this game. It was very interesting to see a 49ers home game where they played Colt McCoy at quarterback because Kyler Murray was ruled out that day. Chase Edmonds went out early with a high ankle sprain, meaning James Conner was taking over. DeAndre Hopkins did not play, was ruled out, and none of this mattered. The Cardinals were just able to move the ball at will against San Francisco. And on the other side of the ball,
James Conner show.
Jimmy G did have over 300 yards, but this offense just looked lackluster. It looked like, especially at the end of the game, there was about 8 or 9 minutes left. There was still plenty of time for the Niners to make it run, and they just looked like they were just taking their precious time. The fans were very upset with what appeared to be Shanahan's lack of concern around trying to make a comeback, almost like they were kind of throwing in the towel. So, yeah, a little bit concerning about the future of this 49ers team. Well, on the other side, kudos to Cliff Kingsbury for having his team ready even without all those stars.
I feel like you're right for many reasons, but one thing I have kind of been surprised by is what you just said. I feel like I haven't seen a coach go from held in so high graces to souring so fast. I'm talking about Shanahan, of course, in San Francisco. So it's really interesting to kind of see how that has been unveiling in front of our eyes.
I mean, the James Conner thing has been developing for a while, right? Like he's kind of been trending up in that offense. So, you know, I think that's
his team. I mean, it looks like Edmonds is going to miss a few weeks with that high ankle sprain. So this is the James Conner show now in Arizona.
Definitely, I think, especially with a gimpy Murray, you know, you want a piece of that for sure. I mean, he's the touchdown scorer, and he doesn't have to compete with carries anymore, and you've got a limited rushing upside from your normal quarterback who has rushing upside. So I think that's great. But, yeah, flipping the other side of the ball, I mean, like, Jimmy Garoppolo has just continued to prove that he, like, the Pats sold high on Jimmy Garoppolo, and good for them, right? Like, that, good for them. Like, he's not special. Studley, you know, attractive gentleman, if you would say so, but not very good at football, right? He's very, very mediocre. Like 28 for 40 for 300 yards, 2 T's and a pick. It's like, okay, decent day, but it's not a great day. And
no, and he definitely missed some throws. From an accuracy standpoint, missed some wide open receivers at other times and threw it into coverage. I'm going to the Monday night game, Rams at 49ers, so I'll be 2 49ers games in a row. I would like to see Trey Lance, so just putting that out into the universe for at least the excitement factor. Speaking of the Rams, Sunday Night Football, Tennessee Titans traveling to SoFi Stadium to play the Rams, and the Titans just handed the Rams their lunch, 28-16. This was not a Titans offense that had everything figured out with Derrick Henry out. This was 100% the Titans defense. Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry, they absolutely were wrecking balls. Simmons had 3 sacks in the first half, 3 sacks in one half against what has been at least a pretty decent Rams offensive line. This was a Titans defense that was tired of hearing about the Derrick Henry stuff and how he was the whole team. They came out to prove a point. Matthew Stafford pulled a Wentz. He was getting tackled in the end zone and just decided, hey, I think I'll just throw it. Oh, look, there's a Titan right there. Didn't result in a touchdown on that play, but shortly after that, they got in. And then the very next drive, he's like, no, I missed that one pick six. Let me go ahead and get it this time. Actually, it was a great play by Kevin Byard, who cut on the ball. Stafford trying to throw across the field and did get the pick six there. Went from the Rams somewhat controlling the game with a 3-0 lead to 14-3 in a span of like 24 seconds. And the Titans never looked back. Adrian Peterson got a touchdown in his first game. Good for him. He seemed pretty excited to be there. And neither one of you looked too thrilled to talk about this game, so we can keep moving.
I mean, it's a surprising game, right? It's again just another buck in the trend of what we have seen this year. I mean, Kupp had 11 receptions for 100 yards. By all accounts, a good game for any wide receiver. He continues to be the number one. Didn't get the splashy
Would have been nice if he had one more catch for.
We're good. We're good. I'm perfectly happy with how it ended.
Quickly, we'll let the listeners know. So Tommy and I were going against each other in the Dynasty Fantasy League, the PDL, and we're both. He was in first, I was in second, both 7-1. I just needed one more catch from Kupp, or it looked like I guess Darrell Henderson was injured at the end of the game. I just needed 1.3 points from them and couldn't get it, and Tommy won by less than 2 points. So yeah, you may continue. Just wanted to throw that out there.
We really do love to see it. Except when he freaking backdoors me in our league in FanDuel, which is really annoying. I'm like solidly in first, and then Tommy you creeps up with his stupid Derrick Henry touchdowns out of nowhere. But anyway, throw this data point out, and then the Rams are going to be fine.
And finally, a game that, at least on the final result, win versus losses might have been normal, but it was a game that almost just capped such an insane week. And the Steelers 29, Bears 27. The Bears almost pulled this out. I wouldn't say that the Bears played fantastic or anything, but it was yet another example of Fields looked decent. I mean, he's showing improvement. Really seems to have a good connection with Cole Kmet. David Montgomery came back, really was the sole starter there, and Khalil Herbert, who's been a great story. I think he only got like 4 carries. Pittsburgh defense really came through. J.J. Watt with 3 sacks. I feel like the Steelers were always in control of this game, but a couple miscues towards the end, some special teams miscues by the Steelers kept the Bears in this. Other than that, I don't really have any takes. It was nice to see Fields almost had 300 yards passing, so there was a little progress there. You guys have any takes here? Or should we just throw week 9 away? Let's just throw it in the garbage.
My take is the wheels should have come off of the Steelers. And this is just, again, I'm going to circle back and just talk about how much I respect Mike Tomlin's ability to coach a football team. That team did not do that, right? Like the team kept it together through injuries, through Roethlisberger's noodle arm for a while, right? I mean, they're using Naji Harris like they drafted him to use him. I mean, like, look at, Connor is a little bit different, but, I mean, Le'Veon Bell did nothing after he got out of that offense. Naji Harris is succeeding, so think it's just a testament to Mike Tomlin's coaching ability. But then, on the other side of the ball, I feel like if Justin Fields can escape Nagy, like, he's got a lot of potential, man. I mean, it's his first year. He's plays on a horrible team.
I think he will escape Nagy because I think Nagy will be fired.
Well, that's what we all hope. That's what we all hope. But and Cole Kmet, dude, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but I'm pretty sure I'm not misremembering. I think this is right. But coming out of that draft, and Tommy, you will be able to correct me, I believe it was him and Fant were like neck and neck for like the top 2 tight ends coming out of that draft, right? And you heard a lot about Fant, and you didn't hear anything about Kmet.
It's a Hawkinson year too. Fant and Hawkinson were both at Iowa.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Hawkinson and Kmet. Like, I feel like there was 2 of them. Kmet was with somebody else.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is that 2020 draft, and you're right. There were only a few tight ends that was kind of held in high regard because the tight end group wasn't the strongest that year. But in my opinion, Cole Kmet was actually my favorite tight end in that entire draft class. So you're not misremembering. Cole Kmet, I believe, might have actually been the first tight end to go in that draft. Actually, I'm having in front of me. That is correct. He was the very first tight end.
Fant and Hawkinson were the year before. Fant and Hawkinson are not the same draft year as Kmet.
Yeah, and this is. Yeah. Oh, go on. Yeah, no, for me, he was clear cut. It was a weak tight end class, but he was the clear cut best one.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is I distinctly remember him being a Pats target when Gronkowski was like fading, and they did not end up getting him. So, moral of the story is I'm glad he's finally starting to pay off on the draft capital they spent on him, because he should have been good.
So we're done recapping. Oh yeah, we played.
I sure do.
Yeah.
So let's put a bow on week 9. What an absolutely insane week. Not a whole lot to glean.
It ended great though. The Florida Gators fired their defensive coordinator.
Oh, so you got to throw the Gator stuff in there. Dan Mullen's next, right? I mean, don't you want a new head coach?
No.
You want to keep Mullen? Okay, all right.
No, I just want to win.
Who did you lose to? Like the Gamecocks or someone?
Listen, well, let's move on. It was a bad week, and
you brought it up. I was not going to bring it up.
At least it got Grim fired.
Let's talk some fantasy football because I know that'll certainly perk you up there. Let's go to our DFS Higher and Flyers presented by DraftKings. Football fans, who's ready to score some free bets? Now you can when you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers who bet just $1 on either team to score. So either team, just bet on a team to score some points. $1 can win you $100 in free bets. When a team scores, you score. If Sportsbet isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with Kings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. All you got to do is just go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TPPN, bet $1 on either score, and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code TPPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So a quick rehash. So I'm getting so good at that. When Will doesn't interrupt me. Our Flyers, if you happen to be listening for the first time, is Will. As soon as he's done yawning, Will and I will go through and pick a higher priced player on the DraftKings main slate who we think is poised to have a good week, as well as a flyer, a lower priced player that we think is poised to produce based on the matchup or their opportunity and give you value. We will do this at every single position. I will go ahead and jump in. I'm going to go with quarterback Dak Prescott, making a bounce back, only 6,900 going against the Falcons defense. I mentioned on the episode we already recorded that will be airing on Thursday. It's very weird to do the flavor of the week first. It's throwing me off. That I think that this is going to be a very high-scoring game. It is the highest point total at 52 on the main slate, actually, for the entire week. So you've got a lot of points to be scored. Even last week, that off game against the Broncos, he still scored 20 points, just under 20 points. The Falcons are 28th in DVOA versus the pass, 30th in overall defense. So you got a bad defense. You have a Dak Prescott wanting to make a comeback, and you've got a lot of points that are probably going to be scored. I think that sets up well for Dak.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm going to be at this game this weekend, and we all know how good the football team is in coverage. Even without Antonio Brown, and game script could go against him because I see the Bucs getting up very early in this game. But I'm gonna, if I'm gonna go higher, Tom Brady against the football team could do worse. I think
That's 600 against a dismal Washington secondary.
And to piggyback off of your hire, let's get crazy, and let's go Matt Ryan at 6K versus the Dallas Cowboys. Not a cash play, to be clear. Certainly a tournament play, but he surprised last week. Dallas's secondary is very opportunistic, but also hit and miss, and can be had. And like you said, highest implied totals on the week. I think you could go crazy with a Matt Ryan stack and take a flyer on him.
So I'm going to double piggyback my flyer at quarterback, going to your Tampa Bay Washington game, Taylor Heineke at only 5,400, who's averaging 18 points per game, going up against the Bucs defense where their susceptibility is in the secondary. And game script, they're going to be losing. The Bucs are going to be scoring a lot of points against this Washington defense. Tampa Bay is 21st versus quarterbacks on DraftKings, and at 5,400, if you're looking to save some money at the quarterback position, he adds value with his legs. He had a game where he almost had 100 yards rushing earlier, so I like.
He's already
Heineke.
showed it. He's already showed it against the same team last year, right?
That's
Like,
true. That's right. Rematch of the wild card playoff game where Heineke we were all interested in. He nearly beat the Bucs. Certainly came closer than anybody else did. At running back, for my hire, Naji Harris. It's kind of a no-brainer here, but he's still only 7,900. The amount of usage he's getting, running backs in the past, you think of your CMC, Dalvin Cook at his height, Derrick Henry, you're talking about between 9,000 and 10,000 even. And Naji Harris is still under 8. So 7,900 against the Detroit Lions. He's averaging over 20 points per game. The entire offense runs through him, including in the red zone. He gets a lot of red zone targets. The Lions are 31st right now against running backs on DraftKings. That kind of opportunity, that kind of usage at that price, Naji Harris, to me, no-brainer as a hire.
Don't hate it. I'm gonna go with. I don't know if that's as true this year, but it's certainly been a thing in my head when I pick DFS that the Falcons are bad against pass-catching running backs, and also running backs, and also like wide receivers and quarterbacks. But
entire offenses.
A lot of ways you can play this, but Zeke Elliott is only 7K against Atlanta. There is a narrative where, the Cowboys get up. Dak doesn't have to do everything, and they just let Zeke eat against Atlanta. So, I like the Naji play. I also like Zeke.
You want to give your flyer?
Sure.
You're yawning. I'll go to my flyer here.
I'm
on the West Coast.
The flyer, I think the obvious play here with Nick Chubb being out is potentially out is D'Ernest Johnson, 4,700 against the Patriots D.
Are you just reading?
Offense. 27.8 points in Week 7, and he could be the only available running back. So, if Chubb doesn't clear the protocol, I think that's the obvious flyer, and he'll be very highly owned in cash. Who's your flyer pick?
Are you not even going to mention your flyer pick? You're just going to read the notes that I so carefully prepared.
Can we agree that if Chubb does not play, that is he's like the pick of the week at 4,700 at running.
4,700.
He looks
team that relies on the run. He
has
proven that he has a high ceiling. Yeah.
If you want to get squirrely, I don't hate as a cheap flex, J.D. McKissick against Tampa Bay, right? Like they're gonna need to get the ball out pretty quick to get out away from that line. Tampa Bay does have very fast, good linebackers, so it's not like a lock. But McKissick's had some pretty big games, and again, they're going to be down. They're gonna focus on McLaurin. I think McKissick could have a pretty decent game at only 5,200. Tommy, do you like that pick? I feel like I got some approval nods, and Tommy doesn't participate in this segment, so.
Yeah, I do like
we
McKissick
should find ways
a
to
lot.
get Tommy involved in this. Yeah, let's
Why do you like him a lot,
in.
Brian? Like, tell me why I'm gonna beat Brian again this week.
Well, especially for McKissick, especially with kind of the game script that they're gonna have to go against with the Buccaneers, I feel like they're going to be in a negative game script, and that's for some reason they don't really trust Gibson, whether he's hurt or not, in pass catching downs, even though he used to play wide receiver, which kind of blows my mind. They like to bring McKissick in, and for the role that McKissick plays, he's seen as like a villain in fantasy football. He produces, and targets are really, really valuable for running backs. So McKissick always is undervalued, in my opinion, when it comes to DFS. So I think you've convinced me. I think I'm going to put McKissick in one of my DFS plays.
Yeah, so Tommy,
Tommy's participation in this segment, we should give our thing, and then Tommy should just say, love it, hate it, or meh, after every pick. That way he can participate.
Okay, I'm all about getting Tommy involved, so he's not just sitting there watching us. So yeah, Tommy, feel just whatever you feel inspired to do. Love,
he's
hate,
looking
whatever.
at dirty movies on his phone right now.
That's 100%.
He doesn't watch any movies, so dirty or not. Moving to
By
wide receiver.
Dirty movies, I mean Squid Game reruns.
Okay, fair enough.
He's not
Which
wrong.
I finished.
Dude,
I finished, by the way, which was phenomenal.
Really good.
Sorry.
Did you hear about the Squid Game rug pull crypto move that happened with the Squid Game coin? Did you guys hear about this?
What? No.
There was a Squid Game coin, and it was like a crypto, basically scam. This stuff pumped way up, and then in the span of a second went to zero. So like if you had like $160 million in this coin, you would have been left with $1 with what the value of that did. And it was a whole thing, but it was a Squid Game meme crypto coin that happened like pretty recently.
Jeez.
That went to nothing. It's pretty crazy.
What
But
is wrong
talking
with
about
people?
wide receivers, I'm going to go ahead and start us off and segue into relevant topics. And I'm just going to go with that Tampa Washington game. This is a play for a few reasons. One, Tom Brady's a lock in that game. But two, Antonio Brown's in a boot. And when Antonio Brown is in a boot, it bears well for Chris Godwin. So I'm going to go 7,100 Chris Godwin versus Washington. Doing that, it's going to be a Mike Evans game because that's how that works. But I do think Tom prefers Chris to Mike a little bit. But we'll see.
Going back to the Falcons-Cowboys game, we see a lot between the Tampa Bay Washington and the Cowboys-Falcons game. I'm going to stack CeeDee Lamb with Dak at 7,000. He's averaging over 9 targets in each of the last 3 games. As we mentioned earlier, highest point total, game script, looking for a bounce-back game. I can see this between the two of them, and I still think he's priced.
Tommy, live or die.
What are you laughing at? Well, I don't even.
I'm laughing because I didn't read your flyer, and we have the same flyer. I just realized that.
Oh,
Yeah, I actually see that in front of me. Yeah, I really do enjoy both of those kind of picks. My only concern right now is with CeeDee Lamb. Not because I don't believe. Yes.
No, finish. And
Then I got something for you.
Why would you say
no.
Tommy while he was talking and then let him finish? Why wouldn't you just let him finish? That was really weird. Why would you do that?
I started to say
Get
it
called
before
out,
anyway.
man.
I was going to have
Let him-
him read the
All right,
flyer
sorry.
from the notes. So
Oh, gotcha. Well, no, all I'm going to say to make it real quick is my only concern with CeeDee Lamb is the fact that I feel like Dallas may actually be winning, not handedly, but control the game, so they might not have to throw it as much. So the volume is a little bit of a concern. But overall, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, great picks.
Why don't you read the flyer to Tommy to Brian's point, because it's the same.
Yeah, both of these guys really, really like Russell Gage, $5,000 against the Dallas D. Brian, why do you like Russell Gage so much?
So the Cowboys, 24th. We always talk about the game itself, point total. 24th. It's getting late for all of us here. We got to wrap this up soon before we all just completely go off the rails.
It's
Cowboys
8:00,
24th
Grandpa.
versus wide receivers on DraftKings. They just got burned by Tim Patrick and Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater. And we talked, of course, about the point total in the game script. So at only 5,000, they got to throw to somebody. I like Gage as a nice flyer pick. So since you already picked Gage, let's move on to the.
Well, hang on. The other tournament pick would be Olamide Zacchaeus, who had 2 touchdowns last week. I think that's definitely a tournament pick. I think if you want to do this flyer in cash, Gage gets a lot more volume and is safer. So that was my reasoning there. You could go with Zacchaeus though, or I wouldn't go with the obvious picks, which are Pitts, because he's seeing a lot of double coverage and like teams are focusing on him, and then Corduroy is getting pretty expensive. And Dallas is definitely weaker in the secondary, so that was my reasoning for Gage. And I didn't read the show notes, and I just shat on your pick. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody why you're wrong?
So this is the point where I talk about my hire this week. Kyle Pitts at only 5,800 at tight end against the Cowboys defense. I don't think you're going to keep him down for long. I think this is a game he gets back in the end zone. He's averaging nearly over the last 4 games, really since Calvin Ridley has kind of stepped out. He's the first rookie tight end with at least 35 receptions over his first 8 games in NFL history. So he's having a historic game at tight end. And once again, game script. I think this is going to be a game where we don't see a lot of defense. Scoring game. Get some Cowboys, get some Falcons. I think that's the moral of the story here. And I'm going to go ahead and do my flyer because Will's kind of done his own thing. Real quick, Pat Freiermuth, 3,900. If you want to punt at defense, he has really been a favorite target of Big Ben lately. He has averaged over 16 points over the last 3 games. So this is not a fluke. He's getting a lot of attention, especially in the red zone. And at only 3,900, I like that as a punt play at the tight end position.
Tommy, if you were to have to choose from a multiple choice exam, Pat Freiermuth, and you would you obviously bubble in white guy? Like that is could you have a whiter name than Pat Freiermuth?
So this is like a race test that he's taking? Like guess the race?
I mean, it's just an incredible name, bro. Pat
It
Freiermuth.
really actually is a pretty phenomenal name.
It's just the whitest of names. Tight end wise, I think if Fant's back against the Birds are really bad at tight ends because their linebackers are really bad in general. Even a COVID-19 Fant who just probably will get gassed immediately could have a pretty good game against them. So it's a matchup based play. I will say I am probably not spending up at tight end this week. There's not a lot that I really like at the top. Kyle Pitts is okay, a little expensive. Dalton Schultz, probably another great pick, but I think there's better ways to play that. I'm probably spending down. I do like your Pat Freiermuth pick, but you could go with Fant. If Fant's not playing, I think Agawagabunum, whatever his name is, what is his name? Owagbunum?
Alberto is what I call him.
Just Alberto.
Ogawagabunum. He's I don't know how. I'm not trying to be
butchering his name.
I don't know.
It sounds like you're being disrespectful.
It does, but I'm not meaning that. I just don't know how to say his name. I think he's a lock. I played him last week, actually. And then I think if you want to pivot, Conklin 3,400 against the Chargers. He's playing well, right? He's seeing a lot of attention in that offense. And at 3,400, it's just a great price play.
Finishing it up with the defenses, Bills defense at 4,000 versus the Jets offense. Now they are getting Mike White back, it appears, so a little bit better prospects, but this is still the Jets. And I don't think Mike White is some sort of prodigy that just no one has been able to discover. So top defense against one of the worst offenses. I probably won't spend up at defense, but if you do, 4,000 there. I'll go ahead and throw my flyer in there to wrap this part up. The Panthers defense at 2,400 versus the Cardinals, especially if Colt McCoy goes again. Carolina's tied at 6th in the NFL for most team sacks. So I always like, if I'm going to punt a defense, go with the defense that's going to get to the quarterback, that creates more pressure opportunities and possible turnovers, either fumbles or interceptions. 2,400 Panthers D against the Cardinals.
I was actually looking up a video on how to pronounce that guy's last name. And it's
Not giving it up.
Okuibenum, I think.
Okuibenum. Okay.
Alberto
works.
I'm trying. I've tried to do him justice so that he doesn't get mad at me.
He does listen to the
He's
show. I know that.
Absolutely a listener of the show.
Yeah. Bills, Panthers. I think the Bills defense could be fool's gold this week for a couple different reasons. I won't go into them because I'll probably be wrong. They kind of scare me a little bit, especially if Mike White is back. So we'll see about
The
that.
scary quarterback that is Mike White.
No, but I just mean that, like, I mean, they just did really poorly against the Jags, right? And if you look at the Bills, like, I don't have it in front of me. I'm gonna pull it up real fast. But if you look at their, like, defensive performance average, like, they're doing okay. They're averaging 11.5 points per game, but, like, the last games haven't been great, and they've been against pretty bad offenses. Like Jacksonville, they got 8 points. Miami, they got 12 points. Tennessee, they got a point. You know, their games that they've done well have been against, like, KC, when KC went sideways, and then they had 2 huge games versus Houston. So I'm actually going to go a little different here, and I'm probably going to drop down one tick, and I'm take the Cardinals against the PJ Walker Panthers. If you look at their performance, the Cardinals, 16 points against Tennessee, 18 points against Jacksonville, 12 points against Cleveland, 11 versus Houston, 12 against San Francisco, right? So they have a history of high-scoring games against bad offenses. So I think that you could do that. Probably not going to do that. I don't hate your opposite pick, the Panthers defense in that game against Colt McCoy. I think you could get crazy here. This is not a good defense, but again, if you look at historical performance, the Titans defense against the Saints, I mean, let's talk. Let's talk about points. We got 16 points against the Rams. We had 12 points against the Colts. We had 17 points against the Chiefs, 13 points against the Jags, and that offense without Jameis is not dynamic in any way, shape, or form. So,
and apparently might be missed.
Especially, and if that is the case, it's an absolute lock. I think you just lock and load the Titans defense. I also don't hate the Cowboys defense, but I don't think I'm going to go there this week. But that's my move.
Okay, Tommy, any thoughts? Any higher and flyer thoughts? Don't want to exclude you from this.
Oh, no. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I don't pay too much attention to defense typically because that's like the first thing I actually lock in when I do DFS because I find the cheapest defense that I still find viable, and then I pick the rest. So, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head, though.
It's like the opposite of how every person ever that plays DFS plays.
I know. I do things weird.
I lock in my defense that's highly variable from week in and week
first
out.
thing I lock in.
Well,
right.
When we get to the host standings and our host, I'm still losing to Tommy. So, well, at least he's.
That must be embarrassing for you.
Let's wrap
really
it.
bad.
Yeah, it really is. Let's wrap it up with a recap of our DFS league, starting with our weekly DraftKings league. Reminder that is 100% free to enter. Just send us an email to pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or message us at officialpppod on Twitter, and we'll send you the link to the DraftKings. Free to enter, cash prizes, and if you want, you can choose to get one of Will's hats. I think we sent one hat so far. Somebody wanted the taco hat, so they got the taco hat. All right, so recap of the top 3 who placed this week. We had, I think, 25 entries this week, so really getting a lot of people involved, over 50 members in the league, which is awesome to see. In first place, winner of $35 Ifryo, LFRYO or IFRYO with 134.64 points. So really low scoring week. First place, $15 for second place. I am Cruz, 126.48, and $5 for third. Our boy Smooth 238, who came to us from halftime.
Did you say Smooth Tooth?
Smooth 238. That's his DraftKings username. It's
I thought
on
his
the
name
show
was.
notes.
I
Pay
thought his
attention.
name was Smooth Tooth 38. I'm like, that's incredible. Like,
That would maybe the smooth stands for his teeth. I don't really know. But yeah, so if any of you, Ifrio, I am Cruz, or Smooth 238 want to get your earnings from this week, just email code 3TD James 3TD Connor to pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or DM us the code phrase @officialpppod on Twitter. Our season-long DFS league for the podcast itself, JMax68, my brother Justin, won week 9. And the host standings, Will still remains in first with 1125.10. Tommy in second place with 1024.12. And me pulling up the rear with another dreadful week. I'm really not doing well in DFS this year. I did much better last year.
really bad picks.
I'm concentrating too much on everything else. I need to put some. I'm in 7 fantasy leagues. It's just
You're concentrating too much on your picks that you're last place in on the show. Also,
That's true.
Oh
None of it's
boy.
working. I'm in
Fair
playoff
enough.
contention in pretty much all of my regular fantasy leagues. So there's that. Yeah. So pulling up the rear with 998.48. All right, guys, that's it. We flipped things around. We did the flavor of the week first, the main NFL episode. Any last words before we wrap this epic NFL podcast up for the evening? You guys, I think you. Oh, there we go, Anthony. Once again, it's going to end both episodes with a nice Lions roar. Thank you all for listening. I will let both Tommy and Will go before they fall asleep. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends. Leave us a 5-star review. Still batting 1,000 on iTunes. Waiting for that to end, but we're almost a year. By the way, next week is our 1-year anniversary. So wouldn't it be great if we went a whole year with nothing but 5-star reviews? Don't forget to tune into our halftime show. Just download the halftime app on Google Play or iTunes. So on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, me and Anthony, our producer, go on there every Wednesday, chat live with our halftime audience. And that's it, guys. Stick around for the flavor of the week.
Go Birds.